Acculorber Forecast and Acculorber Forecast. I went up to heaven.
Where did heaven go? It got like when the hurricanes are around. I'm down to the fire all the time.
If you hate snow and you hate Boston, you're going to be very happy. And if you hate Philly and hate freezing rain, you're also going to be very happy. But, as always, the secret to happiness here in New York City remains more elusive. And as with everything in New York, it's difficult to say what's going to happen or even what is happening. But it's safe to assume everything is going to happen here in the next 48 hours. And whether it forces you to eat your neighbor's pets to sustain your strength or have an uncomfortable threesome with Dennis Kucinich and Chris Christie in order to spawn a new species better suited for the extreme climate we now live in the S&M dungeon of, well, all that depends on your own temperament, and also three weather factors which are at play right now during this winter storm. Those three factors are bombogenesis, phasing, and the 40-70 benchmark. There's a spot just off the coast of Long Island where the temperature of the water and air exist at the sweet ratio that turns any little storm that passes over it into a superstorm. It exists at 40 degrees north and 70 degrees west latitude and longitude, and it's exactly where this storm is arriving at this moment, the 40-70 benchmark. Now what happens here is that moisture from the relatively warm Atlantic Ocean gets drawn up into the cold, already saturated air. The moisture rises up and then condenses into rain or snow, and as it does so, it warms the air around it. It's the opposite of when you sweat and the water evaporates, cooling the air around your body. In this case, the newly formed precipitation heats the air, encouraging the storm to grow vertically because hot air rises, and creates a vacuum that draws still more moisture up from the ocean beneath. This creates a positive feedback loop where the more moisture gets involved, the hotter it gets, drawing in more moisture. This is known as bombogenesis, where a little snow gets turned into 1,000,000 feet of snow or 10 million feet of snow. But wait a second. If the air is heating up, how come it doesn't all just turn to rain, Mr. Smart Guy? Because as air rises, it begins to turn, thanks to the turning Earth. It begins a counterclockwise rotation where moist air on the east side, the seaward side, is lifted and then twisted around the north side and then back down, supercooled by its breakneck trip through northern New England towards us. That's why it's called a nor'easter, because even though the eye of the storm is coming up from the south, the winds are rotating around and blasting us from the northeast. That unstoppable cyclonic feedback loop is being amplified by phasing, by meshing with another storm or another system, a system of cold air coming in from the Great Lakes that is both itself extremely frigid and also rotating in such a way that it meshes or phases with the western side of our storm and speeds up the rush of cold wind from the north. So it all sounds super awesome, right? So I've been listening to chatter between weather bureaus all week, and the ongoing debate was initially, will these three things all come to pass? Then it turned to, well, yes, but when will they happen? And Thursday afternoon, they turned to, holy crap, they're all happening much earlier, and the choreography is much more seamless than anybody has ever seen before. The storm is hitting the benchmark, it is undergoing bombogenesis, and it is phasing right now, tonight. What this means is that the storm is likely to be more precipitous, that is, more stuff will fall out of it, and it will be much colder. The freezing line, which was initially thought to be north of I-95 for most of the duration of the storm, is now well below New York City for, again, most of the run of the event. That means we could very well get a foot of snow here in the city and much more further up towards Boston, the more towards Boston you go. It also means it will be much windier than any winter storm we have seen in a long time. The eye of the storm will track just offshore up to Maine, and as it passes Long Island, the barometric pressure at the eye will be 978 millibars. That's consistent with a Category 2 hurricane. Because of the position of the eye relative to the coast and the structure of a winter storm as opposed to a hurricane, New York will have sustained winds of seemingly just 25 miles per hour with gusts up to 55. No big whoop. But this isn't just wind. This is wind with wet snow and ice in it. The further east you go, the closer to the eye, the stronger the winds will be. And Boston, which is looking at easily more than a couple of feet of snow, is also looking at sustained gale-force winds and the potential for a very icy storm surge. It's actually lucky, just as a side note here, that this event will be almost all snow at this point, because the wind would be much more damaging to trees coated in freezing rain and ice. So here is, perhaps most importantly, the timeline for New York City. Flurries are going to start tonight. This is Thursday night, becoming intermittent light snow by the morning. By 1 p.m., it's going to be wet snow with some other gloppy business, increasing in intensity until about 7 p.m. And at 7, we're going to get heavy snow, and at the same time that the cyclonic mechanics of the event push what's left of the freezing line back down south of the city. And then about 10 p.m., the snow will become very heavy, with the beginning of intense banding throughout the area and the potential for thunder snow, which didn't exist before like 2008 and now seems to happen all the time, which is totally normal and nothing to be alarmed at all. By midnight, there'll be a chance for blizzard conditions shifting in and out, and if the snow becomes too intense or if sustained winds go beyond 39 miles per hour, the subways will be shut down. Between midnight and 7 a.m., heavy snow. By about 10 a.m. on Saturday, that snow will become generally light. By 1 p.m., it'll be back to flurries for the rest of the day. So, speaking for myself, my short-term plan now is to soak my clothes in salt water and then let them dry so that the snow will melt as I walk through it on Friday and Saturday. The longer-term plan, which I've been doing for several years up until tonight, is to go on an extremely high sodium diet so that even if I do end up outside naked and disoriented, as I often do on weekends, again, I will be able to melt the snow very easily, no problem, just by walking through. So that's where things stand at this point. Good luck to everybody. Remember to bundle up, and if you have any relatives that you normally have sleep outside, you should bring them in, especially children who are small and more prone to being blown away. Also, of course, remember to set your clocks back this weekend. Farewell.
Acculorber Forecast and Acculorber Forecast going up to heaven.
Ladies and gentlemen, look what I like to wear when it hurts.